Hey everybody, this is Perch. Here's a good question talking about overcompensation. So let's get right to the mail. It says, hey Perch, I'm sure you're familiar with talking points that sound something like, until Black Panther, the only roles black men got were gangster or dumb comic relief, which is bullshit to anyone who's actually watches movies made before 2018. There's been a fair range of roles black men like Danny Glover, Richard Pryor, Morgan Freeman, Denzel, and so on got. Lots of cops, soldiers, agents. Morgan Freeman played God in '98. Dennis Haysbert played the president on 24 for multiple seasons. But that's had me wondering how much of these tropes from the new crop of writers do you think stem from believing that this was the case and trying to correct it? I suspect that that's what's behind many of the creative tropes that come away thinking things like, women have only ever been fridged, we need to change that. It's like, no, the vast majority of female characters have never been fridged. There was never a crisis of fridging, but you get these new writers who feel they have to subvert these tropes that frankly never really existed. The reason that these current tropes feel so forced is because they are. The writers are insisting on subverting a trope that never actually happened, or at least hasn't for about 40 years. Do you think that's what gets some of these writers bogged down? Yes, 100%. I definitely do. There was a thing that happened, I don't know exactly, mid 2000s, 2005 to 2010, somewhere in there, where there became this certainty of, quote unquote, how things are. Meaning like, well, women have never, ever been a leading star in a comic. Forget about Wonder Woman. Women have never been anything but sex objects. And black characters have only been drug addicts and gangsters. And there's been this almost certainty. And what happens is the writer is trying to get attention on their blog. So they will take, and this is Gail Simone with the whole fridging thing, you cherry pick a handful of incidents over tens of thousands of comics. And you say, well, there's a theme here. The theme here is that, women are always fridged and they're always used to just support male characters, and look at all this. And it blows away the nuance and the context and, frankly, the history of comics in favor of making a, junk food level point. And I think that's what I would call it. It's like junk food. It doesn't have substance. It doesn't, really relate or protect anything. And instead, it's used to give a short-term, adrenaline boost of, hey, here's a problem I didn't realize exists, and now I'm angry. And because I'm angry, I'm going to give attention to this. And I think you had a lot of that because there's way too many writers today that have little to no comic history understanding at all. And they almost use this entire kind of false, fiction as a way to prevent from to basically shield themselves from having to learn. I've talked to a decent amount of writers who will say things like, I don't go back and look at the back issues. A lot of them are really problematic. Really? A lot of them are problematic. How? Are you talking about the Lois Lane adventures in the Silver Age where she is chasing after Superman and all that kind of stuff, and women shouldn't chase after men? And okay, but if that's problematic, then why are so many of you addicted to, TV shows and Netflix series where, the whole dynamic of women chasing after men is a core part of that show and has been and pretty much always will be? What is there's this Netflix show. It's a period piece. I found it really aggravating. A lot of people just watched it because the characters are naked during the whole period, big aspects of it. It's I don't remember. Anyway, is it like a woman and a man are pretending to date, and then they fall in love, and then he doesn't want a baby, and she's trying to get him to not use rubber. And it's the worst description of the show. Somebody will tell me. Somebody has had a significant other force them to watch that show. not saying that's my case. Well, maybe. You do get every now and then you get little blitz of now we'll do full frontal nudity. So it's like, it keeps the It keeps the person who's drug into watching that show, usually the men, sticking around for another couple episodes until the whole damn thing's over. Bridgerton. I got it myself. Okay, Bridgerton. That's the show I'm thinking of. Anyway, sorry. Look, there's plenty of comics out there, the majority of comics out there, that are not problematic. Those little articles that people like to, bring up and drag around from Stan Lee talking about how racism is bad and that he likes a more inclusive society, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, those are true, and he was writing them back in the 70s, some cases the 60s. So don't tell me, don't be that weird creep, Dobson, who's gonna like try and pretend that the comic industry for decades and decades and decades was just filled with creepy, horny, masturbating men, because it's not true. It's not remotely true. I mean, there's probably plenty of masturbation in there, but they're not. Come on, you can't portray the comic industry this way because the facts don't support it. You blow up that lie almost instantly when you pick up a comic and you read it. Read the Fantastic Four. Yes, there were certainly some issues and panels where Reed Richards was being a prick to his wife, and he was bouncing around there like he was she needed to make him a sandwich while he did the science stuff. But there are also plenty of panels where Reed selflessly protects his wife, where Sue Storm puts one over on him. This happened a lot. Why is it when we're talking about Reed Richards being a prick, do we not also include the panels of like Sue, turning things invisible and making him look like a dumbass that's too involved in science? She got one over on him plenty. This was a common running thread in the Fantastic Four. This was not a comic of constant misogyny. So, but if you have that basis in your mind that everything is all screwed up, then yeah, you overcompensate. It's like, well, now we need to finally have a black hero. And this is some of the reviews, by the way, not reviews, interviews around the new Sam Wilson Captain America book. And they're like, well, finally we have a mainstream black superhero. What the fuck are you talking about? In 2022, you can't make that statement. It is a lie. And no, don't try and excuse away like, well, but what they were meaning is that, look, idiots, we've had first of all, we've had Sam Wilson as Captain America in his own book already years ago. Like this entire character himself isn't even new. But you've got a long list of black characters for decades that have been in comics. I mean, if you're the Milestone creators and you hear that, don't you want to just say, "Oh, fuck you"? I mean, right? Like, are any of you reading comics? And it is. I think it's simultaneously an overcompensation and a laziness. The laziness being, hey, I want my book to sound credible and important. I want people to tell me that I'm doing something new, special, and and better than others. That's what I want. So therefore, I'm going to say that my book had the first ever woman as a superhero. It's kind of like when Captain Marvel movie came out, and they're like, well, finally, we have a leading female superhero. It's like, hey, assholes, Wonder Woman was like less than a year ago. Like, you just had Wonder Woman just now. And that's not even counting that horrible Halle Berry Catwoman movie. I mean, who could forget about that? But there's tons. It's like a leading female person in an action movie. Like, I'm pretty sure Sigourney Weaver was running around getting terrorized by an alien and kicking the shit out of it back in the 80s. Pretty sure that happened. How can you not watch? I mean, Alien, and notwithstanding, how do you forget Aliens? The second one where Sigourney Weaver was a badass in that movie. Like if you're showing up in any time after in the 90s on talking about how women have never been in movies, then you clearly have not watched movies. So it is an overcompensation. It is a lie, and it definitely has a lot to do with people wanting to make themselves look and appear more, whatever it happens to be, more progressive, more intelligent, more like, finally I'm solving this problem. And in many cases, how I read it is that it sounds more sexist and misogynistic than anything else. When somebody's like, finally I've made a movie for women, it's like, thank you, you chubby pasty white dude. Thank you for being the great savior of women. Thank you. Now please go watch Aliens from before you were born and educate yourself. As they say, touch grass. It is it's a silliness to me that just drives me nuts on a regular basis. But anyway, them's the breaks. So thank you very much for the mail. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for listening.